I opened the bathroom door, and my life ended. Not dramatic like, just ended. Carol was in the tub. So was Dennis, her sister's husband. Steam everywhere. That new perfume she'd been wearing, water sloshing against porcelain, his hand on her shoulder, her hand somewhere I couldn't look at. They didn't scramble, didn't apologize. Carol looked at me like I was interrupting something important. "Ray," she said, flat, annoyed. "You're home early." Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "This isn't what it looks like." Just, "You're home early." I stood there, with my hunting rifle still downstairs in the closet, mud on my boots, the whole world tilting sideways. 42 years of marriage. And she looked at me like I'd walked in on a business meeting. I backed out. Closed the door, walked downstairs, got in my truck and left. I should have said something, done something. But I just left. The deer weren't moving. Too warm for late November, felt more like October. Trees still holding leaves they should have dropped weeks ago. I'd been sitting in my stand since before dawn, watching fog lift off the hollows, and hadn't seen a thing worth pointing a rifle at. By 2 in the afternoon, I gave up. Earl was supposed to come with me, but his back went out the night before. 71 years old, same age my father was when he died. That thought stuck with me as I drove home, truck bouncing over the logging road. Earl and I had been hunting this land together for 40 years. Felt wrong doing it alone. I passed a red F-150 going the opposite direction. Didn't think much of it. A lot of trucks on these roads. The house came into view around the bend. White farmhouse my great-grandfather built in 1907. Same roof I'd repaired 3 times. Same porch where my father taught me to tie fishing knots. Carol's car in the driveway meant she was home. I figured she'd have venison stew going, the way she always did when I went hunting. Even if I came back empty-handed, she'd have stew. 42 years. You get used to certain things. I parked, grabbed my rifle, headed for the front door. It was unlocked. Carol always locked it when she was home alone. Small town habit. Even though crime out here meant someone stealing gas from your shed. Inside, the house was quiet. No TV, no radio, no kitchen sounds. Then I heard voices upstairs. Not words I could make out, just voices. Low, intimate. My first thought was the TV in our bedroom. Carol watching one of her shows. I set the rifle in the hall closet, climbed the stairs. My left knee popped. Old injury from when I was 30, slipped on ice carrying feed bags. The sound echoed in the stairwell. The voices stopped. I reached the landing. Bathroom door closed, but light showing underneath. Steam seeping out around the frame. I opened it. Carol was in the tub. So was Dennis Kroger, Linda's husband, Carol's sister's husband. The man who'd sat at my Thanksgiving table 8 days ago, eaten my food, shaken my hand. They were both naked, his arm around her shoulders, her hair wet, slicked back. That new perfume she'd been wearing lately, expensive, floral, nothing like the drugstore stuff she used to buy. I stood there. Couldn't move, couldn't speak. The steam made everything feel unreal, like walking into someone else's dream. Carol turned her head, saw me. Didn't gasp, didn't try to cover herself. Just looked at me with this expression I'd never seen before. Irritated, put out. "Ray," she said, flat voice. The way you'd say someone's name when they interrupted your work. "You're home early." Not, "This isn't what it looks like." Not, "I'm sorry," just, "You're home early." Dennis had the nerve to smirk. Actually smirked at me, water dripping off his gym rat chest, looking at me like I was the one out of place in my own goddamn bathroom. I should have said something. Should have grabbed him by the throat, thrown him through the window, done anything except stand there like a fool. But I couldn't find words, couldn't find rage, couldn't find anything except this hollow place where my lungs used to be. I backed out, closed the door, walked downstairs on legs that didn't feel like mine, got my rifle from the closet, didn't trust myself to leave it in the house, got in my truck, started the engine, drove. I ended up at my workshop, big barn on the back 40 where I kept my tools, the tractor, parts from 40 years of diesel mechanic work. I'd built it with my father when I was 19, before Carol, before Jessica, before anything. The truck cab was cold. November night coming on, temperature dropping fast now that the sun was down. I didn't care. I sat there with my hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. 42 years. Married at 25. I was a kid, really. She was 22, prettiest girl in 3 counties, working at the diner in town. I fixed her car. Carburetor problem, simple. And she smiled at me like I'd hung the moon. We got married at the courthouse. Had Jessica 3 years later. Raised her in that house. Same house where I grew up. Same house my father grew up in. 42 years, 3 months, 11 days. And she'd looked at me like I was interrupting her bath. I spent that night in the truck. Couldn't go back to the house. Couldn't face the empty rooms, the bed, the bathroom with its fogged-up mirror. The next day I worked on the tractor. Didn't need work, but I tore into it anyway. Hands busy, mind blank. That's how you get through things. Carol's car left around noon, came back at dinner. Left again after dark. Second night, same thing. Truck cab, cold, hands on the wheel. Third night, Earl's pickup pulled up outside the workshop. I watched him get out, walk to the door, knock. "Ray," he called. "Open up. I know you're in there." I didn't answer. "Ray," louder now. "We need to talk." I sat there another 30 seconds. Then I got out, opened the door. Earl took one look at me, 3 days without shaving, same clothes, probably smelled like a barn, and his face went soft. "Jesus, Ray," he said. "How long you been out here?" I couldn't meet his eyes. "Come on," Earl said. "Let's get you inside where it's warm. Then you're going to tell me what happened." Earl didn't ask questions right away, just sat on an overturned oil drum in the workshop, waiting, patient as stone. I leaned against my workbench, couldn't look at him. "Carol and I finally said, "we're having some trouble." Earl nodded, didn't say anything. I stopped, couldn't get the words out. "She's seeing someone." The words tasted like ashes. Earl was quiet for a long moment, then, "That why you're sleeping in your truck?" "Yeah." "Who is it?" I shook my head, couldn't say Dennis's name. Couldn't admit my wife was in bed with her own sister's husband. Some humiliations are too big to speak out loud. Earl stood up, walked to where I kept my coffee pot on a shelf, poured 2 cups, black, the way we both took it, handed me one. "Ray," he said, you need a lawyer." "Not tomorrow, today. I can handle this." "No." Earl's voice was firm, not mean, just certain. "You can't, and that's not weakness, that's smart." He pulled a business card from his wallet, handed it over. "Amanda Pierce, attorney at law, family law specialist." "Friend of mine from church," Earl said. "She's young, but she's sharp. Call her." I held the card, stared at the raised letters. "I mean it, Ray, today." After Earl left, I stood there another 20 minutes. Then I called the number. Amanda Pierce's office was above the hardware store on Main Street, small place, organized like a military operation. Filing cabinets, yellow legal pads stacked neat, diplomas on the wall. She was maybe 35, dark hair pulled back. Looked like she could take apart a transmission and put it back together without breaking a sweat. "Mr. Hutchins," she said, shaking my hand. Firm grip. "Earl speaks highly of you. Have a seat." I sat in the chair across from her desk, felt like a kid called to the principal's office. "Tell me what's happening," she said. Pen ready, legal pad open. I told her, most of it anyway. The bathroom, the 3 days in the workshop, Carol's car, coming and going. Didn't mention Dennis by name, just said someone. Amanda listened without interrupting. When I finished, she asked questions, direct ones. "Is the house jointly owned?" Carol always handled the paperwork. "But yeah, I assume so. Been married 42 years. Her eyebrows went up slightly. "You assume?" "She managed all that, bills, taxes, accounts. I trusted her." Amanda wrote something down, underlined it twice. "Bank accounts? Joint checking. My father left me some money when he passed. That's in there too." More writing. "Mr. Hutchins," Amanda said, looking up. "I need you to listen carefully. Don't confront your wife. Don't argue. Don't threaten. What you need to do is document everything." "Document?" "Photograph papers. Note dates and times when she's gone. If you see anything unusual, cars, visitors, financial records, document it. Your phone has a camera?" Earl showed me how to use it. "Good. Use it. Evidence wins cases. Emotion loses them." I nodded. That made sense. Methodical, logical. Same way you diagnose an engine problem. Gather information, find the pattern, fix what's broken. "Can you do that?" Amanda asked. "Yes, ma'am." "One more thing." She leaned forward. "Do not touch anything that might be seen as threatening. No weapons, no confrontations, no showing up where she is. Understand? I'm not the confronting type anyway." "Good." She closed her legal pad. "Call me if you find anything. And Mr. Hutchins, I'm sorry this is happening to you." I stood, shook her hand again. "Thank you." Driving home, I felt something I hadn't felt in 3 days. Not hope, exactly. Just less alone. Someone had a plan. Someone believed me. Carol's car was gone when I got back. I parked, walked to the house, unlocked front door. She still wasn't locking it. Inside, everything looked normal. Kitchen clean, coffee pot on the counter, mail stacked on the table. Like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't seen what I'd seen. I walked upstairs, stood outside the craft room, Carol's space, where she kept her sewing machine, art supplies, computer. Door closed. I tried the handle. Locked. In 42 years, she'd never locked that door. Never had a reason to. I stood there, hand on the knob, something cold settling in my chest. From the workshop window, I had a clear view of the house. 20 minutes later, Carol's car pulled into the driveway. I watched through a pair of binoculars I kept for checking fence lines. She got out, went straight inside. Didn't look around, didn't check the workshop. walked like someone who owned the place. I watched her move through the house, could see her through the kitchen window, then upstairs. She went into the craft room, stayed there maybe 15 minutes, came out with a folder, took it to the kitchen, opened the oven, put the folder inside, closed the oven door. My stomach dropped. Who hides papers in an oven? She went back upstairs, locked herself in the craft room again. 20 minutes later, came out with her purse, got in her car, left. I waited 10 minutes. Then I went inside. The oven was still warm from where her hand had touched it. I opened it, folder inside. Plain manila, nothing written on the tab. I opened it. Property deed, transfer of ownership. From Raymond James Hutchins to Carol Marie Hutchins, dated 3 months ago. My signature at the bottom. Or something that looked like my signature. But I'd never signed this, never even seen it. I stared at the document, reading it 3 times, 4 times. My signature, my name, transferring my father's farm, 4 generations of Hutchins land, into Carol's sole name. The letters blurred. I picked up my phone, photographed every page. Hands shaking so bad the first few came out blurry. Did it again, steadier this time. Then I put the folder back exactly where I found it. Walked back to the workshop, sat on my stool in the cold. She forged my name. The affair was one thing, bad enough. But this was something else entirely. Part 3. Flicker of Hope. 950 words. I spent the next 2 days doing what Amanda said. Documenting. Felt good, actually. Gave me something to do besides sit and stew. Same kind of work I'd done for 40 years as a mechanic. Gather information, find the pattern, understand what's broken. I photographed bank statements. Found Carol had moved $15,000 from our joint account to one I'd never heard of. 3 transfers over 6 months, each under $5,000. Small enough I wouldn't notice in the monthly statements I barely looked at. I checked property tax records online. Earl's grandson showed me how. Turns out the internet's useful for more than cat videos. Found 3 different versions of our deed on file. One said joint ownership, one said Carol's name only, one said mine only. Someone had been filing contradictory documents, muddying the water. I made notes, dates, amounts, document numbers. Kept it all in a spiral notebook, same kind I used to track repair jobs. Late afternoon, I took a break. Hands cramping from writing, eyes tired from the computer screen Earl lent me. I walked to my workshop, opened my father's toolbox. It sat on the bench where it always sat, big red Craftsman chest, older than me. My father had bought it in 1965, same year I was born. Used it every day of his working life. When he died 8 years ago, I inherited it along with the farm. I ran my hand over the worn handle. The metal was smooth where his hands had gripped it thousands of times. Inside, wrenches organized by size, sockets in their tray, screwdrivers with tape-wrapped handles. Everything had its place. Everything served a purpose. There was a note taped inside the lid, his handwriting, shaky from the Parkinson's that took him. I'd read it 100 times, but read it again. Ray, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Keep the land. It's yours by right and by work. Measure twice, cut once, and measure twice, cut once. His favorite saying meant don't rush, don't guess, do it right the first time. I closed the toolbox carefully. Carol wanted to take this from me. Not just the land, the whole thing. 4 generations of Hutchins men who'd worked this soil, built this farm from nothing, kept it going through depression and drought and every hard year that came. She wanted to erase it. Forge a signature and make it disappear. Not if I had anything to say about it. That night, I couldn't sleep. Lay in the workshop cot, staring at the ceiling, mind churning. Around midnight, I got up, walked to the house. Carol's car was gone. She'd been staying somewhere else, probably Linda's place, or maybe Dennis's. Didn't matter. I went to the hall closet, pulled down the box of old photos from the top shelf. Hadn't looked at them in years. Sat at the kitchen table, opened the first album, wedding photo. Carol at 22, white dress from JCPenney, smile so bright it hurt to look at. Me at 25, skinny as a rail in my father's borrowed suit, holding her hand like I'd won the lottery, because I thought then. Prettiest girl in 3 counties. And she'd said yes to me. Next page. Our first apartment above the hardware store. Tiny place, 1 bedroom, kitchen the size of a closet. Carol in the doorway, holding a pot of soup, laughing at something I'd said. I remember that day. She'd burned the soup. We'd ordered pizza instead. Stayed up all night, talking about what we'd do when we had money. More photos. Carol pregnant with Jessica, hand on her belly, standing in front of the farmhouse. My father in the background, hammering new steps for the porch. Carol's face had this glow, not just from pregnancy, but from happiness. Real happiness. Jessica as a baby. Carol holding her on the porch swing singing. I remembered that too. Carol used to sing old hymns, voice soft and sweet. Great is thy faithfulness was her favorite. Thanksgiving photos? Carol setting the table, father carving turkey, Jessica coloring at the kids' table. Carol's hand on my shoulder, squeezing, her wedding ring catching the light. I stared at that photo for a long time. When had it changed? When had the woman who squeezed my shoulder at Thanksgiving turned into the woman who looked at me like I was interrupting her bath? I closed the album, put it back in the box, but I couldn't shake the question. 8 years. That's when my father died. 8 years since Carol started filing those contradictory property documents, started planning whatever this was. Had she been lying that long? Had she looked at my father's funeral and seen dollar signs instead of grief? I stood up, looked at the clock. 2 a.m. Carol's car still gone. I walked upstairs to the craft room, stood outside the locked door. Amanda had said document everything. Don't confront, don't threaten. She hadn't said anything about breaking into a locked room in my own house. I went to the workshop, got my screwdriver kit, came back, picked the lock, simple pin and tumbler, same kind I'd opened 100 times when I locked my keys in the truck. Took 30 seconds. The door opened. Desk covered in papers, laptop closed, file folders stacked neat. Carol was organized. I'd give her that. I started with the folders. First one, the property transfer final. Inside, the forged deeds I'd already seen, but also older versions, practice attempts where the signature didn't quite match. She'd been working on it, perfecting my handwriting. Second folder, real estate agent business cards, appraisal documents, market analysis for 180-acre farm, development potential, estimated value, $850,000. Third folder, bottom drawer under a stack of fabric, legal documents in a sealed envelope. The seal was broken. I opened it. Last will and testament of Thomas Raymond Hutchins, my father's will. The real one. Original, notarized, lawyer stamped. I read it 3 times. I leave the farm property at 4792 County Road 18, comprising 180 acres and all structures thereon, to my son, Raymond James Hutchins, in sole ownership, to honor 4 generations of Hutchins stewardship. This property is not marital property and shall remain with the Hutchins family line. Sole ownership. Not joint, not to Ray and Carol, to me, by name, with specific language that it wasn't marital property. My hands shook. Carol had hidden this for 8 years, since the day my father died. She told me the will said we inherited everything together, told me the lawyer had filed it that way. I'd believed her. Why wouldn't I? I photographed every page. The will, the fake deeds, the real estate documents, everything. Found her laptop password taped under the keyboard, like she didn't think I'd ever look. Opened it, email after email, messages to Dennis going back 9 months, planning, scheming, discussing how to handle Ray, how to make the sale happen, how to split the money. One email from Carol to Dennis, dated 6 months ago. He'll never agree to sell. The farm's his religion. We have to force it. Can your notary friend help with the signatures? Dennis's reply, already working on it. Ray's too trusting. This'll be easy. I sat in her desk chair, staring at the screen. 9 months. At least, maybe longer. The affair, the forgery, the hidden will, none of it was impulse. None of it was a mistake. It was a plan. A long, careful, calculated plan to steal everything my father had built. I heard a car engine outside. Carol's car, pulling into the driveway. I scrambled, closed the laptop, put the folders back exactly where I'd found them, slipped out of the craft room, closed the door, tested the lock, still locked. I'd picked it, not broken it. Ran downstairs, out the back door, across the yard to the workshop. Watched through the window as Carol entered the house. She went straight upstairs, checked the craft room door, rattled the handle, satisfied it was still locked. She didn't know I'd been inside. I stood in the dark workshop, phone in my hand, photos of every document Carol had tried to hide. My father's will, the proof that she'd been lying for 8 years. 8 years. I called Amanda at 7 the next morning. She told me to come in immediately. Her office felt different this time. Or maybe I felt different. I had evidence now. Real evidence. Not just suspicions. I spread the photos across her desk. Phone images of the forged deeds, the real estate appraisals, my father's hidden will, the emails between Carol and Dennis. Amanda examined each one. Didn't say anything for 5 minutes. Just looked, made notes on her yellow legal pad, took photos of my photos with her own phone. Finally, she looked up. "Mr. Hutchins," she said, "your wife has committed fraud. Multiple counts. This isn't adultery. That's just bad behavior. This is criminal." The word hung in the air. Criminal. "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means we file for divorce immediately. We request an injunction, preventing any property sale. We seek restitution for your legal fees and emotional damages." And she paused. "I'm obligated to refer this to the county prosecutor. Forging signatures on property documents is a felony." I sat back in my chair. Felony. Carol could go to jail. Part of me felt sick at the thought. 42 years, and it ends with her in handcuffs? But another part, The part that had found my father's will hidden in her craft room felt nothing but cold anger. What do I need to do? I asked. More of what you're doing. Document everything. We need witnesses. She looked at me. You said your neighbor Earl has seen Dennis's truck at your house? Dozens of times. When I was supposed to be gone? Can he testify to that? With dates and times? Earl's got a memory like a steel trap. If he saw it, he'll remember. Good. Get him to write everything down. Photos if he has them. Amanda pulled out a document. I'm filing the divorce petition today. Carol will be served within 48 hours. She'll hire a lawyer. They'll come after you hard, attack your credibility, claim you're unstable, argue the property should be split despite the will. Let them try, I said. Amanda smiled. Small, tight smile. That's the spirit. But Mr. Hutchins, no confrontations. No matter how angry you get, no matter what she says, you document, you walk away. Understand? Yes, ma'am. I mean it. She's going to push your buttons. She's going to try to make you lose your temper in public. Don't give her the satisfaction. I nodded. Thought about my father's words. Measure twice, cut once. One more thing. I said, Mem. Her sister's husband, Dennis, he's in those emails. He knew about the forgery. Helped with it. Amanda's eyebrows went up. Her sister's husband? Yeah. She wrote something down, underlined it hard enough the pen nearly tore through the paper. Jesus, she muttered. Then louder. Does the sister know? Linda? I don't think so. She's a church-going woman. Wouldn't stand for this. We'll see, Amanda said. People surprise you when money's involved. Driving home, I felt something I hadn't felt since that bathroom door opened. Control. Not happiness. Couldn't imagine being happy again. But control. A plan. A path forward. I took the long way, through town, Main Street, past the diner, the feed store, the church. That's when I saw them. Through the diner window, Carol, Dennis, and Linda, sitting in a booth together, 3 coffee cups, plates of pie, laughing about something. Linda, Carol's sister. The woman whose husband was sleeping with Carol, sitting there with both of them, laughing. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I slowed the truck, watched them through the window. Carol said something. Dennis threw his head back, laughing. Linda smiled and shook her head like they were discussing something silly. The weather, a TV show. Not the systematic destruction of a family. I could go in there, walk right up to that booth, say everything I've been holding back for weeks. Amanda's voice in my head. No confrontations. I accelerated, drove past, checked my rearview mirror. Through the diner window, Nora, the owner, stood in the doorway, watching my truck drive away. She'd seen me slow down, seen me watching, small town. Everyone would know by dinner. I drove home, pulled into the workshop, sat there breathing hard, hands shaking. Earl's truck appeared 20 minutes later. Earl didn't knock this time. Just opened the workshop door, walked in, sat down on the oil drum. Ray, he said, we need to talk. Something in his voice made my stomach drop. What is it? Earl looked uncomfortable. Guilty even. Carol's been telling people things. About you. I waited. She's saying you're not yourself, paranoid, that you've accused her of all kinds of things, and she's worried about you. The workshop went very quiet. Pastor Miller asked me Sunday if you were getting help, Earl continued. Nora at the diner told me yesterday she feels so sorry for Carol, dealing with Ray's episode. Pete, at the feed store, you know Pete, known him 30 years, he asked me if you had early dementia. Each word hit like a hammer. They think I'm crazy, I said. Carol's been thorough, I'll give her that. Earl's voice was rough. She's painted herself as the concerned wife. You, as the unstable husband having some kind of breakdown. Half the town believes it. You don't. Hell no, I don't believe it. Earl leaned forward. I'm telling you so you know what you're up against. She's not just stealing your property, Ray. She's stealing your reputation, making sure nobody believes you when the truth comes out. I thought about the diner. Carol and Dennis and Linda, sitting there like nothing was wrong. Linda, Carol's own sister, whose husband was... Linda knows, I said. What? I saw them at the diner. The 3 of them, together, laughing. Linda knows about the affair. Has to. Earl was quiet a moment. That's... Jesus, Ray. That's something else. Yeah. We sat in silence. Outside, the wind picked up. December cold settling in, gray sky promising snow. Even at church? I finally asked. Pastor thinks I'm losing it? Earl nodded. Praying for you and Carol's reconciliation, for your healing, that kind of thing. I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the farmhouse. White paint, black shutters, smoke from the chimney. Carol was home, in my house, in my father's house, using it as a base to destroy me. She wants me to look unstable, I said. She wants everyone thinking I'm paranoid. That's the game, I turned to Earl. Then let's give her exactly what stable looks like. Documentation, evidence, legal proceedings. Everything by the book. That's what Amanda said? Word for word. Earl stood, walked over, put his hand on my shoulder. I've got photos. Dennis's truck at your place. 37 different dates going back 9 months. Timestamps on everyone. Been documenting since I first got suspicious. I looked at him. 9 months? Something felt off. Way Carol was acting. Dennis suddenly being around more. I started paying attention. He squeezed my shoulder. Friend looks out for friend, even when friend doesn't know to ask. My throat tightened. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We've got a fight ahead. That night, first real snow started falling. Heavy wet flakes. Winter coming on hard now, temperature dropping into the teens. I sat in the farmhouse kitchen. Carol was gone again, and looked out at the white fields. The farm my great-grandfather had cleared by hand. The barn my grandfather had built. The workshop my father and I had raised together. 4 generations. Carol wanted to erase all of it. Wanted to paint me as a crazy old man who couldn't tell truth from fantasy. But I had evidence. I had Earl. I had Amanda. And I had my father's will, clear as day. In sole ownership, to honor 4 generations of Hutchins stewardship, let her try. Sunday morning, I put on my church clothes for the first time in 3 weeks. Clean shirt, press pants. Carol used to iron. I'd done them myself this time. Iron cold in one spot, hot in another, but good enough. Shaved. Looked at myself in the bathroom mirror and barely recognized the man looking back. Older, grayer, tired in a way that went deeper than sleep. But I wasn't hiding anymore. The church parking lot was half full when I arrived. Same spot I'd parked in for 40 years. 3rd row, under the oak tree. Got out, walked toward the entrance. Conversation stopped when I approached. Not obvious. Just that pause, that shift, where people become aware of you. Mrs. Henderson, who'd known me since I was a boy, smiled, but didn't wave. The Kruger family, Pete and his wife, suddenly became very interested in their bulletin. I walked up the steps, pulled open the heavy wooden door. Inside, smelled like old hymnals and furniture polish. Organ music playing softly. Great is thy faithfulness. Carol's favorite hymn. I wondered if that was intentional. Probably not. Mrs. Patterson played the same hymns every week, had for 30 years. I walked down the aisle to my usual pew, back right, near the window where you could see the hills. My father's pew before it was mine. My grandfather's before that. The couple in front of me, the Walshes, glanced back, then quickly forward. I sat, opened the hymnal, even though I knew all the words by heart. Pastor Miller's sermon was about grace in difficult times, about forgiveness, about how marriage is a sacred bond that requires patience and understanding when tested. He didn't look at me when he said it. Didn't have to. Everyone knew who he was talking about. After the service, Pastor Miller gripped my shoulder at the door. "Ray," he said, "we're praying for you and Carol both." His eyes were kind, pitying. "Appreciate it, Pastor," I said. What else was there to say? She's been forging documents and sleeping with her sister's husband. That wasn't a conversation for church steps. I walked to my truck. Across the street, Carol's car sat parked. She was inside, phone to her ear, watching me. When she saw me looking, she turned away, kept talking, documenting, I realized, building her case. See how he acts at church, how paranoid, how he stares. I got in my truck and left. Tuesday afternoon, I went to the diner. Same routine I'd had for 20 years. Coffee at 3, sit at the counter, chat with whoever was around. The bell jingled when I opened the door. Nora looked up from behind the counter. Her smile faltered for just a second, recovered. "Ray, haven't seen you in a bit." "Been busy," I said. I sat at my usual spot, end of the counter, near the window. Nora poured coffee without asking. Black, no sugar. The diner wasn't crowded. Couple in the corner booth, Harry the electrician at a table, old Mr. Simmons reading the paper, but the usual chatter was muted, quieter than normal. Harry glanced over, looked away quick. I sipped my coffee. It tasted like it always did. Strong, slightly burned, exactly right. The door jingled. Earl walked in. He didn't ask if he could sit. Just pulled out the stool next to mine, waited for Nora to pour him a cup. We sat in silence, drinking coffee. 2 old men with nothing to say and everything understood. After 10 minutes, Harry paid his check and left. Nodded at Earl on his way out. Didn't look at me. Simmons folded his paper, stood up, walked past us without a word. The couple in the corner booth whispered to each other. The woman glanced over, pity in her eyes. Nora refilled our cups. "You boys need anything else?" "We're good, Nora," Earl said. She hesitated, then quietly. "Ray, you doing okay? Not how are you? Not good to see you. You doing okay?" Like I was fragile, like I might break. "Fine, Nora," I said. Just fine." She nodded, unconvinced, and walked back to the kitchen. Earl and I finished our coffee. Left money on the counter, exact change plus tip. Walked out together. Outside, Earl pulled an envelope from his jacket, handed it to me. What's this? Photos. Dennis's truck. 37 dates? Typed up a timeline too, every instance I saw it. Times, dates, how long it was there. I opened the envelope. Printouts, color photos, timestamps in the corner. Dennis's red F-150 in my driveway. Different times of day, different weather conditions. Some overnight, you could tell from the frost on the hood in the morning shots. Earl had been watching, documenting, for 9 months. Why? I asked. Earl looked at me. Friend looks out for friend. My throat went tight, couldn't speak. Earl clapped me on the shoulder. You're not alone in this, Ray. Remember that. He got in his truck and left. I stood there in the diner parking lot, envelope in my hands, first snow of the season starting to fall. That night, the temperature dropped to 15 degrees. I was alone in the farmhouse. Carol hadn't been back in 3 days. The house groaned and creaked in the cold. Pipes knocked. Wind rattled the windows. I had checked the thermostat, set low to save money, bumped it up a few degrees so the pipes wouldn't freeze, walked through the rooms. Everything looked the same, but felt different. Empty. Cold in a way that had nothing to do with temperature. In the kitchen, I made coffee. Sat at the table where 4 generations of Hutchins men had eaten breakfast. Found myself staring at my father's old chair, the one with the worn armrest where his hand had rested, year after year. He'd sat there every morning, reading the paper, drinking coffee, planning his day. Keep the land. It's yours by right and by work. I walked out to the workshop, opened his toolbox again. That note still taped inside. Pulled it out, read it in the dim light. Measure twice, cut once. I folded it carefully, put it in my shirt pocket. Right over my heart, the wind picked up. Snow coming down harder now, accumulating on the ground. First real snow of winter. Going to be a cold season. Through the workshop window, I saw headlights. Carol's car pulling into the driveway. She parked. Didn't get out right away. Just sat there, car running, looking at the house, at the workshop, at me in the window. Then she got out, walked to the house with her phone held up, taking photos of the dark windows, the workshop light. Me standing there, building her case. See how he watches, how he lurks in the workshop, how unstable he is. She went inside. Lights came on in this kitchen. Then the craft room upstairs. 15 minutes later, she came back out, boxes in her arms, loading them in her car, taking more of her things, moving out piece by piece. I stood in the workshop and watched. Didn't move. Didn't react. Just documented. Took photos of her taking photos, noted the time, the date, what she was removing. Measure twice, cut once. Carol's car pulled away, taillights disappearing down the driveway. The farmhouse sat dark and cold. I was alone with 4 generations of ghosts and a storm coming on, but I had Earl's photos. I had Amanda's legal strategy. I had my father's will and Carol's forged documents. I had everything I needed, even if it felt like I had nothing left. The envelope came on a Thursday, law office return address. I knew what it was before I opened it. Petition for divorce. Carol Marie Hutchins versus Raymond James Hutchins. I sat at the kitchen table and read it, every word, twice. Irreconcilable differences. That part was standard, Amanda had warned me. But then, petitioner has concerns regarding respondent's mental stability and competence. Respondent has made unfounded accusations, exhibited paranoid behavior, and demonstrated inability to manage household affairs. Mental stability, paranoid behavior, inability to manage affairs. The words blurred. Carol was requesting 50-50 property split, spousal support, exclusive use of the marital home during proceedings, for her safety and well-being. Her safety. Like I'd ever raised a hand to anyone in my life. I called Amanda. I got it too, she said. Standard aggressive strategy. Don't panic. We expected this. She's saying I'm crazy. She's saying you're unstable. There's a difference, legally. Papers rustled on her end. We file our counterpetition tomorrow. Fraud claims, forged documents, proof of adultery. We request injunction, preventing any property sale, temporary restraining order, keeping her away from financial accounts, and restitution for legal fees. When's the hearing? Judge set it for January 8th. 18 days. 18 days. 2.5 weeks to save everything my father had built. Mr. Hutchins? Ray? Amanda's voice softened. This is going to get worse before it gets better. Carol's lawyer will try to provoke you. Make you lose your temper in public. You cannot give them that. Understand? I understand. Document everything. If she contacts you, record it. If you see her in public, photograph it. If anyone asks you about the divorce, say no comment and walk away. Can you do that? Looked at my father's note, still in my shirt pocket. Yes, ma'am. The tractor wouldn't start. Dead battery from the cold. Temperatures hadn't been above 20 in a week. I needed to plow the driveway, clear a path to the barn before the next storm hit. Friday afternoon, I drove to the feed store. Battery, salt for the ice, replacement hydraulic hose for the baler. Pete was behind the counter, gave me a look I couldn't quite read when I walked in. Not hostile, just careful. Ray. Pete. I grabbed the battery, hefted it to the counter. Heavy, 60 pounds, same as always. My back complained, but I didn't show it. That's when Dennis walked in. He saw me. I saw him. The air in the store went still. Dennis walked up to the counter, stood 3 feet from me, close enough I could smell his cologne. Expensive, the kind you saw in magazine ads. Ray, he said, cocky, like we were friends. Didn't expect to see you out. I set the battery on the counter, didn't look at him. Carol's worried about you, Dennis continued. Said you're not doing well. Memory issues, that kind of thing. Pete was watching. So was the clerk by the seed display. Small town. This would be all over by dinner. I turned to Dennis, looked him in the eye. My memory's fine, I said. Quiet, calm. So's my lawyer's. Dennis's smirk faltered. Just for a second. I handed Pete my credit card. Pete ran it through. Movements quick, nervous. Gave me the receipt. I picked up the battery. Walked past Dennis without another word. Behind me, I heard Dennis say something to Pete. Couldn't make out the words. Didn't matter. In the truck, my hands shook. Not from fear. From rage, I'd kept bottled tight. But I'd done it. Stayed calm, stayed controlled, took out my phone, photographed the feed store sign, the timestamp, noted in my spiral notebook. December 16th, 3:15 p.m., encountered Dennis Kroger at feed store. He attempted to provoke response. I declined engagement. Measure twice, cut once. Saturday morning, Earl showed up with his truck and jumper cables. We got the tractor started. Took 20 minutes in the cold, both of us breathing fog, fingers numb even through gloves. Thanks, I said. Earl just nodded. We stood there in the barn, warming our hands on coffee from his thermos. Got something for you, Earl said. Pulled out a manila envelope, thicker than the last one. All the documentation, photos, dates, times. Typed it all up, 42 instances now, not 37. Found some I missed. I took the envelope, heavy with paper. Also talked to Margie down at the real estate office, Earl continued. Her husband's the appraiser Carol hired. Margie was concerned. Said Carol's been calling every week, asking when they can list the property, even though I haven't signed anything. Even though, Earl poured more coffee. Margie printed out the listing draft Carol's been working on. It's in there too. I opened the envelope. Photos, timeline, and at the back a real estate listing. Professional photos of my farm, taken when I wasn't home. Description talking about development potential and prime location. Asking price, $875,000. My stomach turned. She's been planning the listing before the divorce is even filed, I said. Looks like it. We stood in silence. Outside, wind howled, temperature dropping again. Going to be another brutal night. A car engine approached. We both looked up. County Sheriff's cruiser. Coming up the driveway, my chest tightened. What now? The sheriff parked, got out. Young guy, maybe 30, looked uncomfortable. Raymond Hutchins? That's me. I need to serve you these. He handed me a document envelope. Emergency motion filed by Carol Hutchins' attorney. I opened it right there in the cold. Emergency motion for immediate property protection and expedited hearing. Carol was claiming I was actively neglecting the property, allowing it to deteriorate, endangering the value of the marital asset through intentional waste. And she wanted the court to force an immediate sale. Wanted a hearing moved up from January 8th to December 27th. 10 days from now? 10 days. You... Okay, Mr. Hutchins, the sheriff asked. I couldn't speak, just stared at the paper. Ray, Earl said. What is it? I handed him the motion. Earl read it, his face going hard. She's trying to force the sale, before you can present your case. The sheriff cleared his throat. I'm sorry, just doing my job. And he got back in his cruiser and left. I stood there in the barn doorway. 10 days. Carol had found a judge who'd agreed to an emergency hearing, claimed the farm was being damaged by my neglect, that immediate action was required. 10 days to gather everything, prepare Amanda's case, save 4 generations of Hutchins land. My phone rang. Amanda. Ray, did you get served? Just now. I'm filing our response today. We have 10 days. I need you and Earl in my office Monday morning. We need every piece of evidence organized, every witness statement ready. Can you do that? I looked at Earl. He nodded. We can do that. Good. And Ray, no more public encounters, no feed store, no diner, no church. Stay on your property. Don't give them anything to use against you. Understood. I hung up. 10 days. The wind picked up, Snow starting to fall again. Heavy flakes. Temperature dropping into the single digits. Storm coming, big one. Earl, I said, you should head home before this gets worse. I'll help you finish the plowing first. You don't have to. Yeah, I do. Earl walked to the tractor. Friend looks out for friend. That's what we do. We worked until dark, plowed the driveway, cleared the barn entrance, spread salt on the walkways. My back screamed. My hands were numb. My knee throbbed from the cold. But the work was done. Earl left just as the storm hit hard. I watched his taillights disappear, then walked back to the farmhouse. Empty, cold, silent except for the wind. 10 days to save everything. I sat at the kitchen table, Carol's emergency motion in front of me, and did the only thing I could do. Started organizing. Evidence in one pile, photos in another, timeline in a third, measure twice, cut once, 10 days. I'd make them count. The storm lasted 3 days, 48 inches of snow, drifts up to the barn door, power out for 36 hours. Temperature never got above zero. I kept the wood stove going. Ate canned soup cold, slept in my coat. Third night, power still out, house dark except for the stove's glow. I sat at the kitchen table with my truck keys in front of me. I could leave, right now. Get in the truck, drive south, keep driving. Let Carol have it all. Let her forge whatever papers she wanted. Sell the farm, split the money with Dennis. I was 67 years old, too old to fight this hard, too tired. The keys sat there. Brass worn smooth from 40 years of use. Outside, wind screamed, snow piled higher. The house creaked and groaned like a ship in rough water. I thought about my father. Thanksgiving, 15 years ago, last one before the Parkinson's got bad. He'd carved the turkey, hands shaking but steady enough. Looked at me across the table, Carol and Jessica laughing about something, and said, "This land is in your hands now, son. 4 generations. Don't take it lightly." I hadn't. I'd worked this farm every day since he died, kept the fences, maintained the buildings, honored what he'd built, and Carol wanted to erase it. Turn 4 generations into a check she could split with her sister's husband. I picked up the keys, walked to the door, put my hand on the knob. A voice in my head, my voice, but younger, scared. "You could just walk away. Who'd blame you?" Another voice. My father's. A Hutchins doesn't run. I stood there for a long time, hand on the door, keys in my fist. Then I put the keys back on the table, walked to the coat closet, found my father's old work jacket. Carhartt, 40 years old, patches on the elbows. Put it on, walked outside into the storm. The cold hit like a fist, took my breath. Snow up to my knees, wind driving ice crystals into my face. I walked to the family cemetery, small plot on the hill overlooking the fields. 4 headstones. My great-grandfather, my grandfather, my grandmother, my father. Snow covered them. I brushed it off my father's stone with numb hands. Thomas Raymond Hutchins, 1934 to 2017. He kept the land. I stood there, storm howling around me. No coat warm enough for this, no hat, no gloves. "I'm trying, Dad," I said out loud. "I'm trying." And the wind was the only answer. I don't know how long I stood there. Long enough my feet went numb. Long enough I stopped shivering, which Earl had told me once was a bad sign. Headlights cut through the snow. A truck coming up the driveway, slow, careful, Earl's truck. He pulled up, got out without turning off the engine, took one look at me standing in the cemetery in the storm. "Ray," he said, Jesus Christ, get in the truck." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're hypothermic. Get in the goddamn truck." I let him lead me back. Got in the passenger seat, heat blasting. Earl had a thermos. "Drink this," he said. "Soup, hot enough to burn." We sat there, engine running, snow piling up on the windshield. "I knew you'd be here," Earl said. "Storm like this? Knew you wouldn't leave?" Was thinking about it. Earl looked at me. "But you didn't?" "No," he nodded. Poured more soup. We drank in silence. 10 days left, Earl said finally. "Amanda's got everything ready. Your testimony, my testimony, every document. We can win this, Ray, but you've got to hold on 10 more days." "I'm tired, Earl." "I know you are." Earl's voice was rough. "But your father didn't give up. Your grandfather didn't give up. You're not going to either." My phone rang. Earl's phone rang at the same time. Different numbers. We both answered. Mine was a Maryland area code. I didn't recognize it. "Hello? Dad?" A woman's voice. One I hadn't heard in 5 years. "Dad, it's me." I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. "Jessica?" I finally managed. "Yeah, Dad, Aunt Linda called me. She told me what's happening. With Mom. I'm so sorry. I didn't know." "Jessica, I'm driving up tonight. I have things you need to see. Things Mom doesn't know I have. It's storming. Roads are... I'm already in Pennsylvania. I'll be there by morning." Her voice cracked. "I'm sorry, Dad. I should have called sooner. I'm sorry." The line went quiet except for road noise, windshield wipers. Drive safe, I said. I will. Dad, I love you. She hung up. I sat there holding the phone. Earl was still on his call, talking low. He hung up, looked at me. That was Amanda, he said. She's got a prosecutor friend reviewing the fraud case. Criminal charges might be coming, for Carol and Dennis both. Jessica's driving up, I said, from Maryland, in this storm. Earl's eyebrows went up. You're Jessica? She said Linda called her, told her the truth, said she has evidence. Linda turned on her sister? Looks like it. We sat there, storm raging outside. But inside the truck, something had shifted. I wasn't alone anymore. Jessica arrived at 6 the next morning. The storm had passed, leaving everything buried under snow. Her rental car, little sedan with Maryland plates, looked like it had been through a war, covered in road salt, ice in the wheel wells. She got out, tall, like me, brown hair pulled back, tired eyes, 38 years old, but I still saw the little girl who used to ride on the tractor with me. We stood there in the driveway, 3 feet apart, 5 years of silence between us. Hi, Dad, she said. Hi, Jessica. Neither of us moved. I'm sorry, she said, for everything, for believing her, for not calling, for... Come inside, I said. It's cold. Earl was already there, had gotten the wood stove going again, made coffee. Jessica came in, set down a laptop bag. We sat at the kitchen table, same table where I'd sat with my father, where he'd sat with his father. Jessica opened the laptop. Mom doesn't know I still have access to her cloud account, she said. I helped her set up her phone 5 years ago, before I stopped calling. She never changed the password. She turned the screen toward me and Earl. Emails, hundreds of them. Carol to Dennis, Dennis to Carol, going back 18 months. Jessica clicked on one from a year ago. Carol's words, he'll never agree to sell. The farm's his religion. We have to force it. Can your notary friend help with the signatures? Dennis's reply, already working on it. Ray's too trusting. This'll be easy. I read it 3 times. Earl leaned in, jaw tight. Jessica clicked through more, planning, scheming, discussing how to handle Ray, how to build a case for his incompetence, how to split the money, 50-50, $437,500 each. There's more, Jessica said. Her voice shook. Text messages, about me. She opened the messages. Carol to Dennis. Jessica won't be a problem. I've been working on her for years. She thinks Ray drove me away with his stubbornness. She won't side with him. Jessica's hands were shaking. She lied to me for 5 years, told me you were impossible, that you refused counseling, that you drove her away. Jessica, I believed her. Tears now, running down her face. I chose her over you because I believed her lies. I reached across the table, put my hand over hers. You're here now, I said. That's what matters. She looked at me. Grandpa would be so angry at me. I abandoned you when you needed family. Your grandfather would be proud you came back when it counted. Jessica broke, sobbed, came around the table and hugged me, first time in 5 years. I held her while she cried, my own eyes wet. Earl stood up quietly, stepped outside to give us space. When Jessica finally pulled back, she wiped her eyes. I can testify, at the hearing. I can show all of this, every email, every text, everything. That's a big decision, I said, going against your mother. She stopped being my mother when she tried to steal from you. From our family. Jessica's jaw set, stubborn. Got that from me. Grandpa left this farm to you, to us, the Hutchins family, not to Mom and her boyfriend. The word hung in the air. Boyfriend, her mother's sister's husband. A truck pulled up outside, Amanda's SUV, somehow making it through the snow-packed roads. Earl must have called her. Amanda came in, stamping snow off her boots, saw Jessica and the laptop. Miss Hutchins, she said. I'm Amanda Pierce, your father's attorney. Jessica stood, shook her hand. I have evidence. Emails, texts, everything. Amanda looked at the screen, started reading. Her face went hard. This is... She stopped, started again. This is everything we need. This proves premeditation. This proves conspiracy. This destroys their entire case. She looked at me. Ray, we're going to win. We're going to bury them. I looked around the kitchen table. Jessica, Earl, Amanda... Documents spread out like battle plans. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than despair. 7 days until the hearing, Amanda said. Let's get to work. December 27th, clear and cold, 20 degrees, sky that hard blue you get after a storm. We stood on the courthouse steps, me, Jessica, Earl, Amanda. Old building, stone and oak, built in 1889. Same courthouse where my parents had gotten married. Where I'd gotten married. Where my marriage was about to end. Ready? Amanda asked. I nodded. Wasn't sure I could speak. Inside smelled like floor wax and old paper. Our footsteps echoed in the marble hallway. Courtroom C, second floor. Carol was already there. Sitting at the defendant's table with her lawyer, man named Mitchell, mid-40s, expensive suit, slicked back hair. Dennis sat behind them in the gallery. New haircut, pressed shirt, looking nervous. Carol had changed her hair. Blonde highlights, professional cut, looked like 10 years younger. She glanced at me when we walked in. No emotion, just cold assessment. Jessica sat behind our table. Earl next to her. A few other people in the gallery. Nora from the diner. Pastor Miller. Some folks I recognized from town. Witnesses. The town was watching. Judge Harold Whitmore entered. Everyone stood. He was 69, gray beard, reading glasses on a chain. I knew him slightly. He'd been friends with my father years back, both on the County Planning Commission. Be seated, he said. Mitchell stood immediately, aggressive from the start. Your Honor, my client has filed this emergency motion because Mr. Hutchins is actively endangering the value of the marital property. He's neglected basic maintenance, allowed the property to deteriorate, and demonstrated a pattern of unstable behavior that threatens— I've read your motion, Mr. Mitchell, Judge Whitmore said, dry voice. Do you have evidence of this deterioration? We have testimony from concerned community members regarding Mr. Hutchins's erratic behavior. We have documentation that he's been sleeping in his workshop rather than the home. We have physical evidence of property damage? Mitchell hesitated. Not physical damage per se, but the pattern of behavior indicates— So no. Judge Whitmore looked at Amanda. Ms. Pierce? Amanda stood, calm, organized, yellow legal pad in hand. Your Honor, Mr. Hutchins isn't neglecting the property. He's been systematically documenting his wife's adultery and her attempts to commit fraud against him. She placed a thick binder on the table. This contains evidence of forged signatures on property transfer documents, proof of an 18-month conspiracy to steal Mr. Hutchins's inherited farm, and testimony from witnesses regarding the adultery. Mitchell's face went tight. Carol whispered something to him. That's a serious accusation, Judge Whitmore said. Yes, Your Honor, which is why we've documented everything. The next hour was Amanda at her best, methodical, precise. No wasted words. She presented the forged deeds side by side with originals. Showed where Carol had practiced my signature on scratch paper. We'd found those too, in her craft room. Showed my father's real will clear as day, in sole ownership, to honor 4 generations of Hutchins stewardship. Mitchell objected twice. Judge Whitmore overruled both times. Amanda called Earl to the stand. Earl walked up slowly. 71 years old, work-worn hands, nervous but steady. He swore on the Bible, sat down. Mr. Drucker, Amanda said. How long have you known Raymond Hutchins? 53 years, since we were boys. And you live next to his property? Next farm over, quarter mile. Have you observed anything unusual at Mr. Hutchins' property over the past year? Earl nodded. Started noticing Dennis Kroger's truck there, red F-150, at first just during the day, then overnight. How many times? 42 times I documented. Photos, dates, times, most of them when Ray was supposed to be gone. And Mr. Kroger is Carol's sister's husband. A murmur went through the courtroom. Carol's face stayed blank. Dennis shifted in his seat. Mitchell stood. Objection. This is hearsay and speculation. And it's eyewitness testimony, Judge Whitmore said, with photographic evidence. Overruled. Amanda entered Earl's documentation into evidence. 42 photos, timestamps, a pattern impossible to deny. Why did you document this, Mr. Drucker? Amanda asked. Earl looked at me, then at Carol. Because I've known Ray Hutchins my whole life. He's the most honest man I've ever met. And when I saw what was happening to him, how people were starting to believe he was unstable, how he was being isolated, I knew someone had to have his back. His voice shook but never broke. Friend looks out for friend, Earl said. That's what we do. Amanda called Jessica next. My daughter stood, walked to the stand. 38 years old, strong, scared, brave. She swore in, sat down. Ms. Hutchins, Amanda said. You're the defendant's daughter? Yes. When did you last speak with your father before this month? 5 years ago. We had an argument about my divorce. I stopped calling. Why did you come back now? Jessica's voice was steady. My Aunt Linda, Carol's sister, called me 3 weeks ago, told me what was really happening, that my mother was having an affair with Linda's husband, that she was trying to steal my father's farm. And you have evidence? Jessica pulled out her laptop, Amanda had it ready, connected to a screen. Emails appeared, blown up large enough for everyone to read. Carol's words, 18 months old. He'll never agree to sell. We have to force it. Dennis's reply, already working on it. Ray's too trusting. This'll be easy. More emails, planning, scheming, discussing forged signatures, discussing how much money they'd split, discussing how to make me look incompetent. The courtroom was dead silent. Mitchell stood, face red. Your Honor, this is a violation of privacy. It's evidence of criminal conspiracy, Amanda said, obtained legally through shared family cloud access. Overruled, Judge Whitmore said. He was reading the emails on the screen, face grave. Jessica continued. Showed text messages between Carol and Dennis. Showed messages where Carol manipulated Jessica's perception of me. Jessica won't be a problem. I've been working on her for years. Jessica's voice finally cracked. My mother lied to me for 5 years. Made me think my father was the problem. Made me abandon him when he needed family. She looked at Carol. I'm not making that mistake again. Carol's mask slipped, just for a moment. Anger flashed across her face. Judge Whitmore removed his reading glasses. Mrs. Hutchins, I'd like to ask you a question directly. Carol stood. Mitchell tried to whisper something to her, but she waved him off. Mrs. Hutchins, Judge Whitmore said, did you forge your husband's signature on property transfer documents? Long silence. The courthouse clock ticked. Yes, Carol said. Mitchell grabbed her arm. Don't. Carol shook him off. Yes, I forged it. Because he would never sell. The farm is worth money, real money. We could have retired in Florida, traveled, lived like normal people, but no. He'd just work until he died, like his father did, like his grandfather did. Her voice rose. 42 years I lived on that farm. 42 years of nothing. I earned the right to cash out. You earned nothing, Judge Whitmore said. His voice was cold. This court recognizes that the property in question was inherited by Raymond Hutchins per his father's will, with specific language excluding it from marital assets. You forged legal documents to steal property that was never yours. He looked at Dennis. Mr. Kroger, what's your involvement in this scheme? Dennis stood up fast. It was her idea. She said she needed help with the paperwork. I didn't know. You didn't know? Carol turned on him. You helped me practice the signatures. You connected me with the notary. That's enough, Judge Whitmore said. Dennis sat down, wouldn't look at Carol. Carol stared at him. Something in her face broke. All that planning, all that scheming, and Dennis had just thrown her under the bus to save himself. Judge Whitmore called a 20-minute recess, said he needed to review the evidence. We stood in the hallway. Jessica paced. Earl stood quiet. Amanda checked her notes. I just leaned against the wall, exhausted, hollow. 20 minutes later, we filed back in. Judge Whitmore had his decision written on a single page. The farm property remains with Raymond Hutchins, per the clear terms of his father's will. Divorce is granted. Carol Hutchins is ordered to pay Mr. Hutchins' legal fees as restitution for fraud. I'm referring this case to the county prosecutor for criminal review. He looked at Carol. Mrs. Hutchins, you are fortunate this is a civil proceeding. Forgery is a felony. You should speak with a criminal attorney. He banged the gavel. It was over. We walked out of the courthouse into cold February sun. Sky pale blue. Snow still piled on the sides of the street from plows. Carol and Dennis left separately, through different doors, didn't look at each other. Mitchell had his phone out, already calling someone, probably a criminal lawyer. I stood on the courthouse steps with Jessica and Earl. People walked past, some nodded, some looked away. Nora stopped. Ray, she said, I'm sorry. I should have known better. It's all right, Nora. No, it's not, but she hesitated. I'm glad you got what's right. She walked away. Others would come later, I figured. Apologies. Explanations. Didn't matter much now. Coffee? Earl asked. Yeah. The diner felt different. Or maybe I felt different. We sat in the same booth. Me, Jessica, Earl. Nora brought coffee without being asked. Set down a fourth cup. On the house, she said. We sat there drinking coffee. Not saying much. What was there to say? Jessica broke the silence. I'm taking a week off work. Thought I'd stay. Help with the farm. I looked at her. You don't have to. I want to. And she wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. I was thinking maybe I could come back this summer. Help with planting, if you want. I'd like that. Grandpa used to let me ride on the tractor, she said. Quiet. Remember? I was maybe 5. He'd put me on his lap, let me think I was steering. He loved that, loved having you there. I'm sorry I stayed away so long. I reached across the table, put my hand over hers. You're here now. That's what counts. Earl stood up. I'm going to head out, let you two talk. He dropped money on the table, looked at me. Ray, proud of you. Couldn't have done it without you. Yeah, you could have. Earl smiled. Small, tired smile. But you didn't have to. That's the point. He left. Jessica and I finished our coffee. Talked about small things, her job in Maryland, the farm, spring planting, nothing heavy, nothing that needed saying. Outside, the sun was warmer than it had been in weeks. First hint of thaw in the air. Ready to go home? Jessica asked. Home. Hadn't thought of it that way in months. Just the farm or the house. But yeah, home. Ready. The farmhouse looked the same. White paint, black shutters, porch my great-grandfather had built. But something felt different walking up those steps. Inside, Jessica started coffee. I walked through the rooms. Living room, kitchen, my father's chair still at the table. Upstairs, the craft room door stood open. Empty now. Carol had taken everything that mattered to her. Left everything that mattered to me. I went back downstairs, out to the workshop. My father's toolbox sat where it always sat. I opened it. Tools in their places. Everything organized. Everything ready. Pulled out the note from my pocket, the one I'd been carrying since the day I found it. Keep the land. It's yours by right and by work. Measure twice, cut once. I folded it carefully. Tucked it back in this toolbox lid where it belonged. Walked to the tractor. Battery charged, oil changed, ready for spring work. Turned the key. Engine coughed, hesitated, turned over, started smooth. First try, small miracle. Or maybe just good maintenance paying off. Jessica appeared in the barn doorway. Tractor running? First try. Grandpa would say that's a good sign. He'd be right. She handed me a spring seed catalog. Found this in your kitchen. Thought you might want it. I took it, thumbed through the pages. Corn, soybeans, hayseed, another season coming. Jessica, I said, thank you for coming back, for the evidence, for choosing. I didn't choose you over her, Dad. Her voice was firm. I chose the truth. That's what Grandpa would have wanted. She was right. He would have. That evening, I walked out to the family cemetery. Sun setting behind the hills, sky going golden pink, temperature dropping again, but not cruel, just winter doing what winter does. I stood at my father's grave, brushed snow off the stone. We kept it, Dad. I said out loud. Wasn't easy, but we kept it. The wind was soft, almost warm. I pulled out a piece of paper and a pen, wrote a few lines. Dad, kept the land. Wasn't easy, but it's ours, always will be. Jessica's coming back this summer. 4 generations isn't done yet. Ray, I folded the note, put it in a plastic bag, buried it at the base of his headstone. Probably silly. He couldn't read it, but it felt right. Walked back to the farmhouse. Lights on in the kitchen. Jessica making dinner. I could smell it from the yard. Something simple, real. Earl's truck pulled up. He got out with a covered dish. Figured you two might want company, he said. Inside, we ate at the kitchen table. Same table where my father had eaten, where I'd eaten my whole life, where Jessica had eaten as a child. After dinner, Earl left. Jessica cleaned up. I sat with my coffee, looking out the window at the dark fields. Spring would come, always did. Work to be done. Fences to mend, crops to plant. 4 generations of Hutchins work continuing. I'd lost 42 years, lost the woman I thought I'd married, lost time with my daughter I couldn't get back, but I'd kept the land, saved the legacy, got my daughter back. Some trades you make aren't equal, but they're the only trades you've got. Outside, the first robin of the year sang from the fence post. Spring coming, life continuing. I'd be here to see it. I learned something these past few months. Silence has a price, so does speaking up. But you pay one price once, and the other price forever. I'm not going to tell you I'm happy. Lost 42 years to a woman who saw dollar signs where I saw legacy. Lost time with my daughter I can't get back. Lost believing that trust alone is enough. But I kept the land. Got my daughter back. Learned who my real friends are. Carol and Dennis. Don't think about them much anymore. They made their choices. Living with those now. What I think about is this. A man's dignity isn't in never getting knocked down. It's in how he gets back up. Whether he does it with truth or with lies. Whether he drags others down or stands on his own feet. My father used to say, measure twice, cut once. It took me 67 years to really understand that. Means don't rush, don't guess. Do it right the first time. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. I'm sitting on my porch right now. Dawn coming up over the fields. Coffee steaming in my hand. Church bells ringing in the distance. First real warmth in the air. Spring's here. Work to be done. And I'll be here to do it. If you've got people who raised you right, who left you something worth keeping, honor that. Protect it. Don't let anyone take it without a fight. Because some things are worth fighting for, even when you're tired, even when you're alone, even when it costs everything you thought you had. The land remains. The truth remains. That's enough.